Rev up your engines!
Driver 101 says, how do you upload so much? I'm easily bored, so I always have to be doing things. So I like making videos, and I really like helping people out. Even when people come here at Clarksville, they say, oh, Scotty, you've helped us out so much. I'd say, yeah, that's all I like doing. It's fun. I like helping regular people out and to keep them from being screwed over by corporate greed or by mechanics that charge too much money or by companies that make lousy cars and they advertise how great they are, and then you buy one and you're stuck with it, and the company says, oh, we're not going to fix it for free. That's the way the cookie crumbles. So I keep doing it. Let me tell you, they keep making more and more mistakes, and every time I see a new mistake, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to make a video about it to tell you all, to warn you all about it. So that's why I do it so much. There's so much crap out there. That's why I upload so many, because more and more crap comes out every day, and I got to warn people about it. Well, it's now official for you sports car fans. The 2023 Nissan Z is going to be a 400 horsepower twin turbo V6. And like Nissan said, it's going to be available both in a standard transmission and an automatic transmission. And if you see some of the pictures that are out there, it looks to me like a real sports car. It's not overwhelming you with all this technology. It's got a nice basic sports design inside too. And it's got like a 240Z inspired nose and a 300ZX-like tail. So they're kind of keeping it in Nissan. Just like when Mustang finally came back with a regular Mustang a while back. They had those box body things. Then they went back to the classic Mustang style. I like that a lot better. I like this a lot better too. But the engine, of course, is what people are interested in a sports car. It'll be a 400 horsepower, 350 pound-feet, 3-liter twin-turbo V6. So it's probably going to be the same engine as it's in the Infiniti Q6S Red Sport. You know, they share all their engines and stuff, so it's not like they're starting out with a brand new engine that might have problems. It's an engine they're already using. Now, Nissan's not saying what the price is yet. They originally said they want to do it under 35 grand. Well, I'm assuming it'll be under $40,000, and for a sports car like that, that's the kind of money you'd expect to pay. It's still at the lower end of a very fast sports car. So I can't wait till they get out. Somebody goes out and buys one and brings it to me so I can drive it around and see what I think. Feel free to drop by Clarksville, Tennessee and visit me so I can check it out, drive it around, analyze it for you, whatever you want. I like trying them out because I'm too cheap to buy them. Too much, says Scotty. What do you think about early Lexus 350 RX? Well, Lexus makes great cars. The only problem with the early ones is now most of them have an awful lot of mileage, and everything eventually breaks down. And one, Americans don't maintain their cars all that well. So if you buy an old Lexus that's got 350,000 miles and wasn't maintained correctly, it's probably going to be very expensive to fix from now on. But on the other hand, I had a customer a couple months ago buy a real nice one from a little old lady who couldn't drive anymore and only had 50,000 miles. They love it. It's a great car. So all depends on the mileage and how it was treated. Originally, they were fantastic vehicles. Ickveer says, Scotty, I got a 2012 Camry. I was told I need a new steering column installed. It's going to cost me $2 grand. Any other solution? Yeah, go to a junkyard and get a salvage steering column. You're going to save a whole bunch of money. Replacing the steering column, any mechanic who knows what he's doing, it isn't going to take them more than 2 or 3 hours to do the job. So the most they should charge your labor is maybe $300-400 tops. There's plenty of people who wreck cars, get rear-ended, side. As long as the steering column's okay, you can buy a used one and put it in. There's nothing wrong with that. Mo says, Scotty, I really need a car right now for college. What could I do? Well, let me tell you, I've got 3 Chinese companies presently sending me electric bicycles that go 29 miles an hour. I can't wait to try them out. You might want to think about one of those. Hey, not a bad deal. They say they have a range of 30 miles. If you're commuting shorter to college, might not be a bad idea because the market has gone insane. The new cars are high, the used cars are high. But if you got to get a car, as logical as you can, go like Craigslist. See if you can find some old Toyota Corollas or Honda Civics that aren't completely destroyed and that still run pretty good. And look at, do they run, do they shift good? Maybe the fender's bashed, maybe the paint doesn't look good. Then you can get them cheaper, but they'll still run just as long. So keep that in the back of your mind if you don't want a bicycle. And anyways, I can't say anything about the Chinese bicycles because I haven't gotten them yet. I got to try them out. Brian Villa says, can a 97 Honda Prelude work as a daily driver and first car? Probably not. All my customers who have bought 90s Honda Preludes recently, stuff was always breaking on them. And the Preludes, even though they're very similar to the Accords, they have many parts that aren't interchangeable. They didn't sell that many Preludes. They didn't make that many Preludes. So are there many parts on Preludes that are obsolete and you can't buy them? Where with the Accords, I've never found one that was obsolete where I couldn't get a part. So maybe not such a smart idea. You'd be better off getting an Accord or a Camry or a Civic or a Toyota Corolla than that car because they're kind of oddball. They get that old. Every customer of mine that bought a 90s ones in the last 4 years, they regretted the decision in the end. Michael Ferdinand says, I got an 03 Toyota Matrix XR 225,000 60,000 miles. Should I drop the transmission pan or just change the fluid? Thank you. Well, if you change the fluid, say every 50, 60,000 miles, you could just change again with a drain bolt. But if you never have, yes, I would drop the pan and get a new gasket. And I would clean the pan and the magnet, and I'd clean the filter, and if it was really bad, I'd replace the filter, and then I'd put it up with new fluid. Because if it's never been changed, there's going to be crud in the bottom, and you want to clean it out. Al says, can someone ask Scotty, is Toyota Corolla 1.8 engine better than the newer 2-liter? Please, I'm buying one today, I must know. As far as I am concerned, yes. For long life and less repairs, yes. I think the best engines Toyota's always made with a 1.8. I had a Toyota Corolla SR5 with a 1.8. Had it for over 30 years. I have a 2007 Toyota Matrix with 1.8. Never touched the engine. Still runs like a clock. Doesn't burn any oil. So I would say yes. I like the 1.8 Toyota engines. They seem to really know how to make 1.8 liter engines. Toyota seem to always have done that right. Eric says my car's stuck in park. It won't crank. I got a 95 Toyota Avalon. I replaced the ignition switch and it won't crank. All I hear is a single click. I'm coming from the glove box. With a bad neutral safety switch caused the shifter to lock up and park, and power windows also stop working. Well, it's not just the neutral safety switch, because that has nothing to do with the power windows not working. You're not getting power. Say you turn your ignition key on, so it's just on. It doesn't start, so you don't have to worry about it running. Just put it on, leave it there. If the power windows don't work, you're not getting power to the power windows. And if you do not get power from the ignition switch to the car, you can't get the car out of park. Power goes from the battery to the ignition switch to the brake switch. When you step on the brakes, that sends power to the park switch, little motor in there, so you can get it into drive. You replace the ignition switch, you said. You got a short somewhere, because if the ignition switch is working and power's going through, you'd be able to get it out of park. So, you said you replaced the ignition switch. Check to see if you've lost power to the ignition. Realize Toyotas, a very big fuse in their fuse box, its main fuse. They're hard to find, they're not irregular screws, they don't pull in and out, they're screwed in. You might have blown that. Check that first, and sometimes you actually have to take the fuse box out and go inside, and it's on the bottom side. That's probably what's blown, because you're not getting any power at all. Francis Beelan says, my 2 front wheels still look negatively cambered as heck after countless alignment sessions. Any idea why, Scotty? Cars are designed by engineers. Certain front end things, they actually go negative or positive. It just depends on how the car was designed. And it's always a compromise, a front end alignment. You want the car to go straight, but you want it to corner good too. Now you can set them so they corner really well, like NASCAR. They're just basically a giant left turn. They're not that great in the straightaways, but they're better cornering. You're doing everything, so it's always a compromise. Now let's say your car goes okay, doesn't pull, doesn't shake, the tires don't wear out weird, then it's perfectly fine. Or you've been dealing with a bunch of idiots that don't know how to align a car and they're not doing it right. So if the tires aren't wearing, it doesn't pull, doesn't shake, they're probably doing it right. Some cars are just designed that way. Well, now Ford is into the self-driving foray. Ford is introducing their 2022 Lincoln Navigator with hands-free driving. They're kind of doing it logically. They're mapping the highways. The computer knows what highway it's on. It knows where the bends are, where everything's set up. It's just not a wide open thing where, okay, the machine's got to figure out, is it going to go here, is it going to go there? It already knows where the road goes. And it has you on the navigation panel that you're going from here to there. It knows at the fork of the road, it's going to go right. It doesn't have to decide which way to go. Now, since it's a Lincoln, it's going to be called Active Glide, not the Blue Cruise that the other one's using. It's its own system. Who knows? It's just a name. That might be the same system. I don't know. Now it's going to control the speed and turning while it actively looks at other stuff. Of course, it's not a full self-driving. We all know that. Now, they're not releasing the price of the 2022 models, but the average price for the 2021 is $92,000. So, okay, they're not giving these things away. We'll see if they start running into things and if people don't listen and jump in the back of the Navigator while it's driving itself. Now, of course, here the thing is going to be how accurate is their updating the map's going to be. There's construction. There's this. There's that. I always hate it myself, even with GPS. They tell you to go one way, you get there and you're halfway there, and then there's a giant construction in the middle of the road that says detour, and you're like, hey, they didn't update it for the detour. So don't always trust the computers to do everything, but it's interesting to see how this thing works out when people actually have them on the road, and that's going to be 2022. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.